everybody? We are live from the baseball capital of the world. Welcome to episode 1 of the Big Apple Battle in New York Baseball Podcast. And today, Ed, we are talking spring fever because the Mets and Yankees are in full swing down in sunny, warm Florida. Today, we'll be talking camp buzz, injury updates, position battles, the ABS initial reactions, and so much more. But before we talk the here and now, I think we need to put a bow on the 2024 season, Ed.
Oh yeah.
And talk a little bit about how that season wrapped up, how we're feeling about it. And then we'll go into some quick winter recaps on some adds and subtractions. But I think, Ed, we have to address the elephant in the room and
Do we?
call.
Do we
I think
actually?
I think we do. I mean, I have to call out the Yankees here. I'm sorry, but they dropped the ball in the World Series, figuratively and literally. Freddie Freeman, I will say, he's not just a Mets killer now. I think there's a mutual hatred here, if I'm not mistaken, across Bronx and Queens.
I don't like his veneers, if we're gonna be honest. Right?
I mean,
But
I want to say they look good, but I can't say that.
he looks like little Richie Rich, and the problem is his face does not match the personality whatsoever. He's like the most humble, nice, genuine human being you can find in the game, and that's a brutal reality.
He's basically Chipper Jones. But I will say, unfortunately for you guys, he really turned that World Series upside down. And honestly, the icing on the cake, and I hate to do this to you this early in the pod, it is episode 1, but that defensive meltdown in the 5th inning of game 5, dare I say the sun was in Judge's eyes, or what happened there?
Hey, listen, those lights around the top of Yankee Stadium would not be shocked if it got lost in them. Those things are blinding, especially this new LED technology they got in those things. That's usually, if you ever look at the top ring, they'll usually turn off the ones right behind home plate. I
Ah,
have not checked that out, but I'm going to now. No, we all know
that,
Judge was playing out of position, that whole season, to accommodate the one, the only now Met Juan Soto, he who shall not be named, perhaps.
I mean, Ed, if they won that game, though, I mean, we might be talking about the first 3-0 comeback in World Series history, but I know we're not. So the floor is
Well,
yours. Welcome to episode 1.
nice way to get it going. Just throwing me right into the fire, or the circus is the way you made it sound. Elephant in the room, dropping the ball. What are we looking at here?
So sorry.
Only on Broadway, right, folks? So it is not an unfair way to start it, though. I think that the Yankees were in for a rude awakening when it came to anything defensively. But I do agree with you, Alec. I do think they would have been the first team to come back from 3-1 down. There was something about the momentum. There was something about the energy. There was something about that game, right? Anthony Volpe hitting a grand slam, all these things just lining up beautifully. And Garrett Cole, right, would set up for a perfect game 7 start on short rest. It was all written up. It's as baseball would, right? Only baseball can write these scripts. So, to look back at it, again, defense reared its ugly head, and defensive miscues and just mental errors, right? Base running mistakes. The fundamentals were fundamentally lost in that game and in that series. And that's why you see the Dodgers dunking on the Yankees every chance they get since that time. Honestly, you got to wear it. And it's something that the Yankees truly probably deserved to face on the biggest stage. And I believe for years kind of just skirted the issue, right? Thought, let's get a Band-Aid. Let's fix it with Juan Soto. Right? That's what we did. That was our big move for 2024. We got rid of pitching. We got rid of defense to bring in Juan Soto because we wanted to double down on offense, home runs, on base, right? A little bit too much of the old mentality now, which is strange to call it, but the 3 true outcomes, right? Striking out, home run, walk, right? Anything that you can control as a batter. So I think doubling down on that took away from what makes the Yankees brand of baseball so great, which is fundamentals first, and knowing how to do those things and locking those details down. Again, Soto making a bobble play in right field in game 1. Gleyber Torres doing the same at second base. Again, it's just as if something between the ears is not quite there on these squads. And I think the Yankees did a lot to address that in the offseason. We'll get back to it in a little bit.
You know what, Ed? Sorry, I just wanted to add too. It's tough too because you're playing a team like the Dodgers, right? Where you make a mistake against them, they're going to capitalize and they're going to put that under a microscope. And I think that,
but as they should, right?
Exactly. That's what all the good teams do. I mean,
that's what great teams do.
That is, but I would want to ask you, regardless of all that, how do you feel truly? How do you feel about the 2024 season? Is it a win in your book?
I think it's successful, right? I think no matter what the Yankees,
not?
Yeah, exactly. They went to the World Series, right? And you haven't been back since 2009, right? 15 years is nothing to sneeze at That's a long time, especially in the Bronx. In Queens, maybe not so much, but in the Bronx, that's a long
Oh,
time to
okay.
wait. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we did it. We did it. But no, you went 15 years between your stints, right? 2000 and
Yep.
2015. That's a
Yep.
long time, right? And you don't even notice it, right? I was 19 when the last time they were in it, and it did not even hit me how long it had been because at this age, it's just like things go by so quickly. You can attest to that, but we'll get back to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Please
That's
pour it
for
on.
another day.
Pour it on.
Another thing we'll talk about are just athletic graces leaving us way too soon. But I
Yeah.
think again, that's a success in its own right, even if Yankee fans don't like to hear it. Sorry, guys, you got to be realistic about this. The equity in the league is so much different. The parity is so much greater than it's been ever before. So teams have chances to come in and make a run any given year, and the Yankees are no different. I just think we couldn't get over that hump, be it these 2017 Astros, 2019 Astros. You want to talk about the trash can scandal, whatever it might be. Excuses really doesn't matter. Cashman's made too many at this point. But he went out and got Soto and it got him over the hump, right? He literally hit the home run to get us there. So it was a victory. However, I do think mortgaging our future in some way to accommodate Soto last year could have had longer term impacts
Yeah.
and ramifications for the way we've constructed our roster and maybe, gone about this offseason. So, look at it either way you want. But I do think for Judge and the guys that are the core of that team that needed to get over that hump, I think this is good for them mentally. And now they're hungry to get over another hump and actually win it this time.
But yeah, it's going to inspire you guys to really come out in 2025 with that fire, to get back there and climb that mountain, right? And hold that trophy up. So
That's
I hope it doesn't happen. But
well, I can't imagine why. You want somebody, that we've just mentioned to help you out and maybe beat the team that also ironically ended your season. Those Dodgers, man, you forget. They didn't just beat me, they beat you.
mm,
What
you're not
happened
wrong.
there? I'm looking at these stats and not to, put the pressure on you now, bud, but
Please.
it's over those 6 games, right? We thought you had a pretty good run in you, and it's a season obviously you didn't expect to do much. And I remember talking to you about it, right? You thought sell off, there's not a lot going to happen this year. Maybe they'll be pretty good, but I don't expect much as long as we can, do the right thing and build the team the right way, right? I
Yep.
remember having that conversation. But again, you got to the NLCS. I remember telling you, dude, these guys, you never know. They're doing some great things. But sorry to come back to this. In this NLCS in 6 games, you had a negative 23 run differential,
Yeah.
meaning you were outscored by 23 runs in 6 games.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's nearly 4 runs a game. That's pretty significant, man.
And Ed, I mean, I can tell you what happened straight up. I mean, regardless of how I feel about the 2024 Mets, and I'll get into that opinion shortly, but I knew going to that series, our starting pitching, they were so good, almost too good at the end of the 2024 season, really throughout the 2024 season, right? There were so many question marks going into that rotation, as there are for this upcoming year. But we'll get to that a little later on the pod. But the Quintanas, the Severinos, the David Petersons, these guys, we had no idea how they were going to perform this year. We had no idea if they were going to stay healthy. And they exceeded expectations for us. They really did. And they were reliable. They were good. And heading into that Dodgers series, I was a little worried just because of how good that team is and the understanding that eventually something's got to give, right? To your point earlier, it's baseball, and eventually just the better team is going to win. And I think that's why I love the sport so much, is that, it has to be all facets of a team to win that World Series. And if one piece is off, right? If there's one weak link, the better team is going to expose that. And I think that's what happened in that series. And unfortunately, the starters, the bullpen was shaky. That also just did not help. No one was able to really go long to begin the game. And then we were really tiring the bullpen out early in the series. So it sucks, but my perspective on the season is it was still a win. I mean, from 0-5 to, oh my God, I'm sure everyone's sick of hearing that. Even us Mets fans are getting sick of hearing it. But I just, from Jorge Lopez throwing his glove into the sky with no one in the seats in, April and May, and just being so bleak early on, I thought the season was lost. And I'm a more optimistic Mets fan than most, and you could attest to that.
That is
But
absolutely true.
and I was still hopeful. I'm like, it's early. That's why we play 162. And in retrospect, I wasn't wrong. But in that moment, I was, and it was really shaky. And then next thing you know, there's a team meeting, the players only meeting, and everything changed. Just
Right.
Lindor and Nimmo and all the good leadership this team had in the clubhouse really helped kind of drive this team and propel this team into a really strong season. I mean, really strong. And then obviously ads like JD Martinez in the offseason coming through in the clutch, obviously faltering towards the back end and showing his age, but a guy like Jose Iglesias, obviously, being the heart and the emotion of this team late, and just obviously being able to do what he was doing and fielding so well and hustling to the bag, setting the example for this team, and even just performing concerts after the game is so good for morale, right?
Dude, for
but
real.
but just to get to my point here, I know I'm rambling just because so much to talk about on the 2024 season. We should do some more episodes just to recap that.
Oh my God.
Just because there's so much, and it was such a really good run for both sides, right? But it's a win. I mean, how could it
But
not
there was
be?
something so much more fun about your run. There was something about our season that just felt like a bit of a slog. And like, if you don't win this, then what was it all for? You know what I mean? Like, you
Yeah.
guys had that no expectation. And I think that's just highlighting the Yankees Mets dynamic, right? Everybody's like, oh, it's so great to be a Yankees fan. You have a chance to win every year, but it's hard, man.
Well, when you're the underdog, you also just feel so good when your team is exceeding those expectations because there really aren't any, to your point.
Right. The camaraderie that builds, right? We can talk about that atmosphere that came out of nowhere, and it's just like you're all
All
in
the
it. Like, how
gimmicks.
amazing is this? Yeah, out of nowhere, it's like, woo, yeah, we're all on board this train. And you look at
You
the
got the
Yankees,
rally
man,
pimp, and you got the fucking purple guy. What's his name? Grimace.
Grimace.
Yeah.
How dare you
I
forget
forgot it.
Grimace?
Of course I can't forget the guy's name.
Grimace is coming for you, dude.
I hate the shake. It doesn't taste
What?
good. But
He's gonna.
Grimace,
He'll show you a shake, all right? He's gonna
yeah.
give you a shake or two.
No, he'll.
What's
I'm
your
forever.
bracket City Field this season?
I mean, us Mets fans are forever in debt to Grimace and what he did for this team in 2024. But
That was your biggest addition. You're forgetting.
the biggest ad. I mean, him and Iglesias were a package deal. But all in
McDonald's
all,
also delivered Iglesias in a Happy Meal.
yeah.
That's a
I mean,
fun fact.
who's not happy watching that guy play?
Oh my God was actually the new jingle for McDonald's. But they're like, you could take it, dude. Just take it, and we'll figure out a way to parlay
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
this.
Oh my
My
god!
God, this burger tastes so good.
All
Oh
right.
my
See,
God.
this is the best part about a pod, right? And this is why I want to do this
Hamburguesa, hamburguesa.
because we're gonna get off track and we're gonna have
All right,
fun, but we're
back
also
to
gonna
it.
talk ball, and that's the beautiful thing about doing this. And we are ready to dive in, put the 2024 season in the rearview mirror. I think we're both satisfied with how our season played out, but of course, you're never truly satisfied until you are the team that is jumping on the mound and winning that World Series, right? And
Yeah,
I don't
especially
know.
when you practice that. You've come a long way from practicing that in spring training
I mean,
with
I don't want
Luis
anyone.
Rojas.
Yes, but I also, yeah, that's pretty crazy that that was even a thing. But also at the same time, I don't want anyone celebrating that until you actually win because of the how we feel about Edwin Diaz and that whole injury debacle. So I
That's
don't
a
even
very
want to
good
put
point.
that back out here.
Wow, isn't it weird to have the foreshadowing of all these things, right? Wasn't that like a year before the Edwin Diaz situation? And then Edwin Diaz does that on the mound like the year after that. It's crazy. It's
It
just
is. That's baseball, Susan.
that is baseball, Susan. And with that,
Susan's yeah, Susan screwed us over there, but that's all right. With that, Ed, again, 2024 in the rear view. I think it's time to give the people what they really want, and that is the outlook for 2025. Because we're going to start to give our winter recap, our adds and subtractions, how we think we got better, or where we think we may have gotten worse. So, Ed, who are the big guys, big pickups, big losses of this offseason for the Yanks?
I kind of broke it down to I think 3-3. So obvious. I think the additions are obvious, right? Well, not mince any words. Max Fried, biggest contract for a lefty starter in baseball history.
Mm.
Huge move for the Yanks. I think Rodon is a really good piece to have, but I don't think he's a true number two in this staff. I think he is a bit of a head case, and I wonder if Fried can be that guy who kind of brings a more level, calm, sort of cerebral approach to the game and not be so amped up by the moment, right? As we saw in the playoffs with Rodon, and Max Fried feels like a big win and a huge addition. And then this one isn't a trade or a signing. This is a trade, obviously. And we can go back to the man who ended this guy's season on your side, the polar bear, effectively ending Devin Williams. The polar bear effectively ended Devin Williams' tenure in Milwaukee with that home run. Fucking killed Bob Uecker. We'll never forgive the man. And I guess all of that got us Devin Williams. So we saw a big moment, and this will come back to Devin Williams, but a big loss and a big addition with him and who we gave up to get him. But Devin Williams, the airbender, the best closer in baseball for probably the last 3 to 4 years, next to
Mm.
Class A, I guess, right? Is there
I,
really
I
any
would
argument?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that's a fair point to make. I mean, there's some other guys who I think are close, but those guys are elite.
Elite. So yeah, you cannot complain. I just feel bad for the poor guy. Comes over, shaves his beard to get into the Yankee way, and a week later they drop the beard policy for the first time in 49 years. So go figure. Damned
Well,
if you do, damned if you don't.
luckily, usually a grown man could grow that back pretty quick. But I
Well,
don't know.
then I'm not a
Most Yankees are a little premature. So
Oh yeah, okay, right. Listen, we might be premature in other ways, but that's not our business. And I must be a 12-year-old because my beard does not grow back for at least a month.
that's all right. We're all a little patchy one way or another, but
But
somewhere.
6 years of commitment, man, like that's horrible, right?
No,
Who does that? That's a
no,
sick
you're
joke.
right. That's true. Who knows if you're even going to be on the new team that long?
Right? He's like, come on, man. I did this for you guys. Like, I was getting in line for the Yankee way, how you do things, the tradition, the history, the pinstripes, and then you make me get rid of it.
I
Anyway,
will.
then you
I will
tell me I
say.
can keep it.
I will say it though. I don't always, want to take jabs here because obviously we're both here to lift each other up, but also put each other down. It's the beauty of New York baseball. But
Of course.
The Max Fried signing is so underrated. I think in something you said there, the trickle down effect. On like
Totally.
a guy like Rendon with this, because being a starting pitcher in the MLB or just being a starting pitcher in general, you need this slow heartbeat. You got to have a strong mental game, right? And you got
Mm-hmm.
to be able to have a short memory and forgetting a bad outing or a bad pitch. And Freed, I think, could help instill or teach that,
Yep.
or help Rodon relearn it so he could be more like his 2021 self. But yeah, man, I mean,
Exactly.
I think those are good calls.
No, and that's the thing. And to your point, it's you got Heel and you still got Schmidt in that rotation too. Younger guys, not a ton of postseason experience, right? So, not to say Freed has the best postseason record or resume. However, I do believe that he's someone who wants to be the best he can be. He wants to learn. He wants to approach the game from a not a only a historic context, and learn from the people that came before him, and those that he's watched growing up and has in
Mm.
camp with the Yankees, but he actually picking the brains of everyone that's there. Andy Pettit, Ron Guidry, CC
Mm-hmm.
Sabathia, right? These are all lefties there to talk to him about, and lefty aces for this team. Borderline Hall of Famers, some of the men Hall of Famers, with CC just getting in this year. So he wants to be great. He's got that mentality. And I think, like you said, the trickle down, you watch these guys prepare and do the same thing, slow heartbeat, and not letting the game get away from them, right?
Yeah.
The snowball effect. That's something the Yankees have an issue with. It's stopping the bleeding. So I think he's a guy that definitely can have that impact.
I mean, something you're going to have to, I guess, wait and see for. Even though I know Atlanta is a very hostile environment, obviously coming from a Mets fan, and the Mets always struggle playing in Atlanta. But Max Fried, although he's played it obviously in a big baseball city, it's just a different beast in New York and especially the Bronx. And there's a lot of pressure on a guy like that, but that will really
Totally.
kind of show his grit and how slow that heartbeat is. So I'm actually curious to see how he does in his first year.
Oh, same man. And it's always good to get off to a hot start, but I always have a fear with big signings that they're gonna, take a little while to get rolling. But I have some patience with that, and
Mm.
we'll hope for the best. But I even in this situation, I don't have that feeling. Again, Atlanta's a big enough market. It's not the number one market. It's still a pretty huge market, and that town loves their baseball.
They love it.
So
And I
he
hate them.
and he did it against you guys in Philly, right? Hostile environments. There's not a single environment in the NL East, maybe outside the Marlins, that isn't, a little bit hostile. Even the Nationals, right, had a pretty big run during that time. So
Yeah.
he's gone against some pretty big time talent, whoever he's gone, faced, especially in playoff experience wise too. So the Yankees clearly wanted to address some issues, and I think that's what they did. They wanted to address strikeouts, did not
Mm-hmm.
have the ability to strike guys out, relied too much on the defense to make outs, which is great. But when your defense wasn't where it should have been, you need more strikeouts so you can take the onus off that defense a little bit more. So that's
100%.
huge. And they needed defense, as I just said. So where did they go? My number 3 signing. And, this one's grown on me over time. And again, he's not so far removed from an MVP season himself, a 7 WAR season for that matter. It's Goldie, Paul Goldschmidt at first base.
Respect.
Huge, right? Big bat. Again, only 2 years removed from a 7 WAR, putting up Gold Glove season after Gold Glove season. He's been in the league for 14 years now, which is just crazy because I feel like he's still young. He still has an ability to hit 20 plus home runs, which is big for us. Even if he's a righty bat, he still puts up elite defense. With a guy like Rizzo, who we've lost, it's tough to lose him. He's a good club guy.
Mm.
He and Judge are best friends. They live in my neighborhood and like hang out all the time, get bagels down the street.
That's
People love
awesome.
to tell me that. I know. They're like, "Oh, are you a Yankee fan? Wearing my Yankee hat, getting a bagel." No, I'm just wearing a hat. Um, Andrew
I
Rizzo,
mean, a lot of people. I mean, in that guy's defense, a lot of people will just wear Yankee
you
hats.
don't just wear a fitted that's broken in like this. I'm not wearing a flat brim. I'm wearing a bent, like fitted hat. It's not one that you get off the street. It's a
You got the
new
pine
era hat.
tar on the brim
Yeah, it's
too.
got sweat on it. You've seen them.
Yeah. It's nice. Really sweaty. Smells pretty bad, but
Oh, so
I catch a
gross.
drift.
So gross. So yeah, so Goldschmidt, I think, just comes in and gives fresh defense. And I don't know what it is about Rizzo in the last couple of years. I think he had this concussion with Tatis running into him at first base that really he's just had a hard time recovering from. So defensively, you saw that play with Cole at first base. They both kind of had a brain fart,
Mm.
but he also is putting up next to nothing offensively, even from the left side. So again, Goldie, I think it's an upgrade. He's only a $12 million deal for one season. And you know who's a free agent next year? Big bad Vladdy Jr. And
Oh
we
yeah,
got
we
a
could. We're gonna have a pot on that because we're both gonna be fighting for that guy.
and we got beards, baby. So we're set.
That's true. That's true.
So yeah, I think it was a good stopgap move. And if you're gonna go top three moves, I think those would be it. And my low
Mm.
key signing, just because or a move, was the Trevino for Fernando Cruz and Alex Jackson trade. Cincinnati sent over for our platinum glove catcher Jose Trevino, who has since fallen out of favor for the younger, more powerful Austin Wells. Goes over to Cincy, Terry Francona's new team, for 35-year-old Fernando Cruz, who only has 3 seasons under his belt, but has insane strikeout numbers
Yeah,
and
he has good stuff.
great stuff. We talked about him for a while. Great peripherals, and I just think Matt Blake will work his clinic on this dude, and the Yankee Gas House gang will be doing some things in that bullpen that they
Yeah,
desperately needed last year.
yeah, I like that call. And what I was gonna say is, I think as we get into the season, even a few weeks, month in, we should revisit this list and
No,
kind of
absolutely.
see how these guys are doing in comparison to our expectations. Do you have any losses or anyone that you feel is one big loss in the offseason that you feel you might have needed heading into 2025?
Soto's an obvious one, but I'm going to keep him out of here because I actually believe that was just foregone conclusion. I just believe that was going to happen somehow. Something was in the cards. The universe was telling me that was going to go down. So I can call him a big loss, but I think ultimately it's a addition by subtraction, but not completely. I just think we needed the ability to be flexible in our offseason and our approach to building this roster. So you can't have that much money committed to one guy who's defensive liability and did not wind up being the ultimate difference maker that we probably need at this juncture. I know that sounds crazy, but we'll get into that all season. So that said, I think
Mm,
Gleyber Torres is a huge loss for this team. I think that he is a
100%.
clubhouse guy. He's beloved. Even at his worst, he's still beloved. He gets too much of the blame. He's a really good second baseman who doesn't have always the best luck in certain circumstances, or it looks like he might be a little lazy on a ball or slow to something or not paying attention. I think he's just often under a microscope and is just so much more given the blame than he deserves, right?
Yeah.
Just from watching his ability. And you saw him in the playoffs, right? He started to figure it out in the leadoff spot. We don't have a leadoff hitter.
Dude, he's an underrated player and he's very solid. I was actually hoping the Mets would look at him when we're kind of thinking about what we're going to do for second base. So I
I
think
was
he is
shocked they
definitely a
didn't
loss.
get him, honestly. I was watching him in Detroit, just, playing spring training. I'm shocked you didn't go after him. He's the perfect clubhouse guy for you guys. And
Perfect. And he would
Carlos
have been
Mendoza,
cool.
I don't
Yeah.
know if you know this, like Carlos Mendoza was his guy with the Yankees.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
I did.
apparently
Yeah.
the only guy that could get through to Glaber was Carlos Mendoza.
And a guy like Lindor, I feel like would be a great mentor and leader to a
Oh
guy
my
like
God.
Glaber too. I mean, we could go on about what
What
would
could have
have
happened?
been or what could have been, but I think he's going to do really, really good for the Tigers out there in Detroit.
Especially if he cuts down on his swing a little bit and isn't going homer happy and just is a line to line, doubles with power guy. He's still going to hit you 20 home runs. He's going to be a 24 home run kind of guy,
Oh yeah,
and he can hit closer to 280 than 250. I
and
just
less
think
less pressure out there too.
totally. And I think it's just an approach thing. And I like what Detroit's doing. The way they're building it, get on, move the line. Here's a home run here and there, but we're going to score runs without that. We got a
Yep.
big ballpark. We're going to get you home. So Glaber's got that's a big loss. And I think we're going to feel the effects of that more so than people understand. I think right now, if we had Jazz at third and Glaber at second still, we would be in a really good spot. But
I agree.
this is just a quick honorable mention. I think one guy we're really going to have hated to lose is Clay Holmes. So I don't know if I'm stealing your thunder on that, but I think that dude might be doing
Mm.
some big things or got saddled with far too much of the blame, as our new acquisition, Devin Williams, did in Milwaukee. But here we are. And now I have to turn it back over to you, my friend. As you see it, how did the Mets address their demise in 2024? And how did they improve? And what do you see as being the best additions and biggest losses?
I got a few here, and I know you mentioned Clay Holmes. It's kind of funny. He is on my list, but he's not on my list. I plan to talk about him later in the pod, but I'll give him some time here as well. But the first guy I wanted to start off here is, going the more non-traditional route and leaving Soto off the list because he's kind of obvious and he kind of speaks for himself, right? It's a guy that we brought back, and I know it's not an addition, but to me, it felt like one because we thought he was lost as Mets fans, and that is our buddy, the polar bear, Pete Alonso. And
Hey,
I
still
know I'm
hate
going.
him.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
But
But
thanks
you
for
got,
Devin Williams.
yeah,
But thank
exactly.
you.
You got Devin Williams for him, and yeah, he's not an addition. But I feel like us Mets fans could all agree that it feels like one because we really thought he was gone. I thought he was gone. I thought there was no chance of bringing him back for how long this was taking. There was no reason for it to be taking so long. Until we quickly found out that Scott Boras is an asshole, and there was no actual market for Pete Alonso. So in that, we got our guy.
Did you have a
And
feeling where he was going? Did you have a fear he would go somewhere specific?
I never thought he was going to Toronto, but I had a weird feeling early in the offseason that he was actually going to go to the Yankees. And I would have
Hmm.
hated it every minute of that.
A lot of people were saying that they would like to see that happen. I couldn't believe it, honestly.
Mets, well, yeah,
Not
I
Mets
think,
fans, just Yankee fans, any fans, baseball people were like, "Yeah, that's a good match." I didn't get it.
yeah, short porch. That's all I could think about.
Yeah,
But
yeah, it helped. It
I
helped in
mean, it's
Milwaukee,
already played in New York kind of thing, I guess, and
right?
he's used to that pressure. But he is just a guy that he gets a lot of slack, and I get it. I've given it to him too because he came out so hot, out of the gate, with setting all these rookie records and just he set the bar really high for himself, right? That's not a bad problem
Juice
to have.
baseballs, juice
Yeah,
baseballs.
yeah, yeah. Hey, 50 home runs, 50 home runs, no?
53, juice baseballs, juice baseballs, juice
50
baseballs.
plus. It just he's so important because he really lengthens this lineup. You get Juan Soto, right? But you look at this lineup before Juan Soto, I mean, excuse me, before Pete Alonso was added back to this team, and it's not that deep. I have it here, and the way I had it broken out was a Lindor, Soto, Vientos, Nimmo, Winker, Alvarez, McNeil, Beatty, and Siri. I mean, your 1 through 4 is good, but there's still a lot of question marks. I mean, Vientos is turning into a budding superstar, but you don't know what he's going to do. Now kind of with the spotlight on him, and pitchers are going to adjust, knowing that he is looking to be like the real deal. At the big league level, and then a guy like Nimmo is coming off a bad year and a couple bad years because he's looked more to power and less from his on base abilities. And it's just not that deep, man. From six down, like you don't know what you're gonna get from McNeil. Beatty is a huge question mark at the major league level. Siri, I'll get into Siri. I do like him, but my point here is that you add Alonso to this lineup, and next thing you know, you're moving everyone down the order, and your big three is so much scarier. Looking at Lindor, Soto, Vientos, to now Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Vientos, Nimmo, top five, and I think that's dangerous. And I think that top three could wear a pitcher out so much that Vientos and Nimmo are going to thrive, and they're going to get some of these pitches that are over the plate because these pitchers are just so tired and worn down from Soto just messing with their head with the nod and the Soto shuffle, and Alonso working the counts and them trying to pitch around him, and Lindor obviously doing what he does. And I don't know, it really just makes the 5 and 6 so much better in this order. And also, I think the most underrated thing here, and then I'll move on from this topic, is that you're letting Vientos stay at third base and focus on hitting without having to now focus on a new position and playing first base is so big coming off the season he had because he's been practicing his third base like crazy. He's been working with Lindor in the offseason. He's gotten really good. He's definitely a not a gold glove caliber fielder yet, but he's working his ass off over there and it's showing. And I really think he's going to be a solid third baseman of the future. And I think it might have hurt his offensive numbers, honestly, if he did end up making the switch the first. So I'm really happy that he gets to hold his position. And, for those reasons, Alonso's my number one.
Not to mention just the defensive flexibility all around, just roster flexibility, right? Any
Exactly.
given day, and you have the DH in the National League now, so you give Polar Bear a day off. You got Vientos to maybe get a couple games in at first. You give Beatty some more time at third, depending on where you're at. So it
Exactly.
just gives you that flexibility to build them for the future too, right? So if Alonso does move on in the next year or two, right? Because I think he has some opt outs in this deal.
Yes,
Um,
after a 1 year opt out, but we're going to
right.
enjoy him this year at least.
Absolutely. So, but you have that. And if he does choose to leave and say you don't get a big free agent signing and you do need to move Vientos at some point, it's a good problem to have. And it gives you eyes on the future and eyes on now, which I think is David Stern's special.
100%. And I think Beatty, it just feels better with Beatty or whoever it is coming off the bench. And we'll get into that in terms of who's fighting for that super utility role. But yeah, man, Alonso just makes this lineup look deeper, makes it look more threatening. And I think it's going to really, really help this team. I mean, it looks like a scary lineup to me. The rotation is the big question mark, and we'll get into all that. But for that, Alonso's my number one. And my number two is a guy, I hate to do this, but a Atlanta Brave, AJ Minter. I mean, I am biased a lefty reliever, as being a lefty pitcher myself, and
real original.
Yeah, I always have a sweet spot for these guys, but he is
you and all of Major League Baseball, lefty with a pulse, baby. He's always got a job.
Oh hell yeah, and dude, he's not just a lefty with a pulse. He is a top end guy, and he is a strong relief pitcher, man. And I think it's a huge add because he doesn't only support Edwin Diaz, but he's finally a lefty who has good splits, right? He's not a lefty specialist. He's good against righties. And he's someone who could close the game if an injury to Edwin Diaz happens, or again, Edwin's just shaky at any point of the season, which we have seen to happen to him. He has a bad stretch, right? A guy like AJ Minter, I'm trusting more to close out games than, right. I don't know, you're throwing a Danny Young in there, right? Or a guy like Daniel Nunez, or a guy like a Sean Reed Foley or Reed Garrett or whoever the hell it is. AJ Minter is definitely, in my opinion, he could be a closer for some of these teams, the MLB, right? So I think, right. he's reliable, right? And he just kind of bolters the back end of the pen. He's also won a World Series. He has playoff and big game experience. So for that, AJ Minter is my number two.
I love that. That's like a Scott Proctor back in the day. All these dudes for the Yankees who Joe Torre would just use no matter what, at will. Like, doesn't matter the situation, you're my guy. You're coming in and you're going to help me out. And I have full faith that you're figuring out this situation.
And we had to get a guy like this. We needed, because now in the back end, you look 7, 8, 9, you're looking at prior, Stanek, Minter, and Diaz. And that list looks so much stronger than a guy like, Garrett, Stanek, and Diaz, in my opinion. Now, Garrett could be more as your 6 and 7, whatever it is, 5, 6, 7 inning guy. And that's solid, right? Mixed with some other guys in the pen, which we'll get to. But when I go into my last ad, I think is really going to help, this.
Don't want to interrupt you here. Please. No, but he did, just to get a note in what's current. He did just throw his first live BP session. So he's eyeing opening day, AJ Minter, but he says he will be smart about it. So
yeah, that is something I didn't
have him soon.
No, you're right though. And that's something I did acknowledge is that he might not be ready for opening day, which is scary. We had hip surgery in the off season, but yeah, from what I've heard,
always a little scary. Hip, you never know what that's going to look like.
Yeah. And you never know, how their mobility is going to be moving forward. There's a lot of rotation, obviously, when it comes to pitching and hip mobility. So I guess we'll see. I'm optimistic. It says the progression is going well. So I guess, hoping for the best. But again, to that point, we're going to revisit this list. And if this guy's not pitching by the time we do, we're going to have some big problems.
You're just hoping on the lower body of all your bullpen. The structure. Hip, knees. This sounded like an old folks home out there, folks.
I'll donate mine if he needs it, which aren't that good though. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure yours is no, he's 1 year older than you, so maybe he could actually use a little bit of a lubricated hip. So
I don't think so, Ed. We were talking earlier. I'm playing this men's league, and I was it was my first live BP session with pitching, and I don't even know how many years. And literally today, I'm hunched over like an old man, and I can't even. I barely could walk. So I threw 30 pitches. So I don't think
we're gonna need a cortisone shot here. Get Dr. James Andrews on the line.
Please, need a few. So I can't donate anything to Minter, but I'm optimistic, I'm hopeful, and I'm excited to see him pitch because he got some nasty stuff.
Love it.
From there, my last one here is in Clay Holmes, which how much I love Clay Holmes and how high I am on him, but that's because I'm saving him for later down the road. So Mets fans don't chew me out. But I'm going with another an ad back, mind you, but a guy that we added late in the 2024 season. That's Jesse Winker.
Okay. So some returnees
because there still is a lot of the 2024 roster on this 2025 team. But I think, with the additional ads we've made, a guy like Winker is huge because he's not only a solid all around ball player, right? With pretty decent fielding ability and sneaky pop. I mean, in 2021 with the Reds, he had 24 home runs in only 110 games, mind you. So that's a really strong pace. And he really helps take the pressure off a guy like Marte, who we know is aging, who we also don't know is going to be ready for opening day. They mentioned his running progression. Some days are good, some days are bad. Marte looks like he is in the best shape of his life, but doesn't mean he's in, ball playing shape, right? And
the guy's always in great shape, though.
Always, but then for whatever reason, he's tearing things and he's pulling things. But that's usually what happens.
Too good a shape, yeah. It's
exactly
like Stanton, right?
Exactly.
You look at ball players back in the 70s, man, those guys were like rubber because all they did was drink and eat whatever they wanted at that point.
And us Mets fans know. No, it's no, not everyone, but we know like a guy like, and Noah Syndergaard, dare I mention, he started lifting heavy, and that guy.
There you go.
He disappeared off the face of the earth after that. He put on some muscle to end his career, essentially. But
baseball workouts are different, man.
They are. It's calisthenics. It's just stretching.
Limber. You got to be limber.
You got to be limber. But Jesse Winker, got to be limber. But Jesse Winker, man, he's a solid lefty DH in my opinion. That's what he's going to be. Obviously, our outfield is full. With Nimmo, Siri, Taylor splits in center, and Soto in right. But I think having a solid lefty righty DH split is a really nice approach, especially in the game today. You have a lefty masher in Winker. A lefty masher in Marte and a righty masher in Winker if they're both healthy. And, now with the extension of the lineup, you're batting them in the 6 and 7 hole. They're not having to be in the 4 or 5 hole, right? So it just feels better that they're deeper in the lineup. And, they're going to stay fresh with limited reps. You kind of trade off of each other, and you're always going to now have a lefty versus a righty and a righty versus a lefty. And they're both guys with pretty good track records of playing ball and really good with the bat. So I think it's underrated bringing him back, because if it's not him, it's a Beatty or a Donovan. Sorry, I got to go deep in the archives for this guy, but a Donovan Walton, which I will talk about a little later. So,
man,
don't even ask me who he is yet, because you'll ruin the surprise.
Well, that is riveting stuff, and what a tease that is. But that is, you need guys like Winker, man. Guys that will, again, bring a team together over a mutual hate from the other side. So it's always good to have guys like that and somebody in your corner that will back you guys up. So character, man. I love
character's huge. And and he also brings us that fire. Him throwing the helmet, smashing the helmet after crossing home plate in that playoff game.
That's it.
That fires me up. But again, I will digress, because I know we are trying to get through a lot today on the pod. Those are my top 3. There's so many more, but those are ones that I'm putting under a microscope to keep an eye on.
Yeah. Who did you hate losing?
There's another obvious one, and that's Iglesias, who we kind of already touched on, who I will touch on again more. So I will leave him out of this segment, but
don't touch on him without his permission.
He texted me. It's fine, but
okay.
I will say,
oh my God.
fitting. But I will say, and you're going to love this
my God button. Oh my God.
I like the Target.
Exactly. The Staples.
Not Target. What do they say? What is the Staples button?
That was easy.
That was easy. Love that button.
We cannot be sued for that, I don't think.
Yeah, if we are,
we're sorry.
That it happens. But okay.
Then oh my God again. Just hit the oh my God button.
We'll have to make that button. But Ed, you were gonna love this one and hate this one at the same time. I
don't think I'm going to.
Luis Severino. And
my guy.
Yeah, and my guy. He is
don't you say that.
Yeah, he's a perfect fit. Honestly, a 4 or 5 in your rotation with upside, and this pisses me off more than anything, because we got Frankie Montas. Ready for my little rant here?
I don't know.
You are. We got Frankie Montas. Still a short deal, right?
I can't tell if you're a Yankee fan or a Mets fan. You're
just
talking
wait,
about Severino and Frankie Montas.
I'm trying to gather
what's
my
going on
here.
Right here.
So
we got like Montas right now.
2 years, 17 a year. Sevy got 3 years, 22 a year. By the Athletics,
he got 17 a year. He didn't get 2 years, 17 million. He got 17 per season.
Yes. Let's fact check me on that and keep me.
No, I'm
honest.
curious. I have no idea. I'm sorry.
Keep me honest.
Crazy.
Let's keep me honest. Do it live on the pod. If I'm wrong,
Frankie Montas. Let's see.
I want you to call it.
Dun, 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 dun. Oh, okay. So you're right. It's 1 year, 17 million with a 26 player option, not a mutual, a player option.
Yeah, exactly. So we're doing the guy a fucking favor.
That's crazy.
And Ed,
what?
That's what I'm saying. And Montas, dude, it's a shorter deal, but only 5 million more in AAV, which is insane to me. Sevy is more durable. Montas has hit the IL in each of the last 3 seasons, and Sevy has made 18 plus starts in each of the last 3 seasons. This one baffles me because
Sevy's also younger.
He's younger, and he's so much more reliable, and he's proven that he could pitch in New York where
And in the
Montas
playoffs, where
really
Montas did
hasn't.
not play it a lot, you know?
Dude,
What?
this one
I'm,
is a huge loss because you add him to this rotation, especially now with the injuries and Montas being one of them. I mean, what the fuck are we doing?
that blew my mind. I didn't even know that's what he got. I thought it was
Like,
2 years, 17. Like, I was like, all right, that makes sense.
if that
What?
was the deal, I'm okay with it. But it being this close in AAV spend and still being a short term deal, where I know Stern doesn't like to sign pitchers long term, especially when they're in their 30s, yada yada yada. We get it, and I
Right.
appreciate that, but it's a 3 year deal. It's not a long
That's
term deal,
crazy.
and the
And I think
Athletics paid him. So what? Anyone could pay him. Me and you could pay him.
Well, yeah, there's some. I mean, I wish we could pay him. We wouldn't be
I me
doing this
too.
if we could pay him. Okay,
That's fair. That's a good point.
we might be, investing in some other endeavors. But the thing about paying him is, if you expect him to go back to what he was, right, and could be, which really you're only banking on two real seasons, which were 28, his age 28 and 29 season, and 21 and 22, where he had 32 starts and 27 starts. Everything else, it's been 16 or fewer starts, except for last season. Sorry, 19 or fewer starts, except for last season where he had 30, but he had a 4.84 ERA between Cincinnati and Milwaukee. So this is Montas. I don't know what they're expecting Hefner to do
Yeah, I
to
think we're
him. You know what I mean?
I think we're banking on Hefner, and don't get me wrong, I love Hefner. I love what our pitching lab has done for a lot of these guys, and we saw it last year, right? But I think you're just banking on that too much now, and you're really trying to experiment a little too much when you're in this kind of win now mode coming out of last year. Now you have the expectations behind you where we're not the underdog, and something's got to give. And Severino would be a perfect 5, and he would be a 5 in my opinion. If you look at this rotation, if healthy in a perfect world, it would be Anaya, it would be Sanga, it would be Peterson slash Holmes, right? In either your 3-4, and then you're gonna have Sevy in a 5.
But Sevy's an easy 3 too. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But that's what's so great about him is he easily slots into any one of those positions
On a
and
World
gives you
Series
quality
team,
ability.
I would say he's more of a 4 or 5 guy. I mean, he'll definitely be probably a 1 or 2 on the Athletics,
Oh yeah, of course.
but yeah, man. I mean, he
Well, on a World Series team, depending though, right? You could have guys go down and he steps up. Like he's got that pedigree,
you're right.
you
He's got
know?
the dog in him. He does. He does.
Totally, if he's healthy. And that's what I think a lot of people forget about him, specifically Severino. He was not healthy for like 3 years. And the Yankees were like, we're done waiting. Get healthy, man. And
And
the
then
Mets
he
were like, why
does.
not?
And then he
Exactly.
gets healthy, and then we're like, okay, we'll see you later, and let's get the guy who's not going to be healthy.
Like fucking clockwork, dude. Like that's what the Yankees do too. And I don't think this is what happened here. I think the Mets were like, listen, you're going to get that money and good for
Yeah,
you. We don't know after spending this much money on Soto or if we're going to allocate all that there. Maybe not the best idea, whatever their idea is. Yeah, I just don't really understand
and
the move.
it's hard to be mad because of all the deals that we've made, and we're kind of spoiled fans now, and I could kind of get it a little bit,
Yeah.
now that we're in the Cohen era, and like I'm grateful for the deals we made, but some of them, no matter what, no matter how much money you have as a team, they're still going to baffle you. And Ed, not to quickly turn
Oh, yeah.
on us here, but I'm just really excited to look forward. I think to 2025, I'm really pumped to kind of finally get into some of what's going on in spring because we've been working to do this pod for some time now. We've been talking about a lot of this offline, and we've talked a lot about the offseason. But now spring training's in full throttle. We're seeing prospects, we're seeing our studs, we're seeing our aces, we're seeing Soto go Oppo. We are ready. And I don't know if you'll let me do the honors, but I'm down to give you some buzzworthy topics for, what's going on in spring right now down in Port St. Lucie.
Please give us all the buzz. But before you do, tell
Please.
me, sir, can you write buzz in perfect cursive?
I'm doing it in the air right now. And I didn't even get past no, I got the B. The Z, I don't know. You know what? We'll have to put that up when we start doing video pods, which will be coming soon. Tune in.
Well, for all you comedy nerds out there, it's a line from Billy Madison when Miss Veronica Vaughn challenges Adam Sandler's character to write Phil risotto in cursive on the chalkboard, and he can't make his Z's out. She says Rarudo and makes fun of him in front of the whole class of fourth graders. And she says, "How about you spell buzz now?" And all these kids are making fun of him. And the irony in it all is now we can't even write cursive. They don't teach it in schools anymore.
No, I actually watched a video. It's funny, a Yankee video.
Yeah, the Yankees
Didn't you
was
see that where no one was able to write the cursive?
totally, dude. And like Luke Weaver's like, oh no, let me do this again. Hold on.
But
All right,
Ed,
there you go.
I am sorry I missed the
Back to it.
reference because hey, look, Ernie peed his pants too.
If that pee in your pants is cool, consider me Miles Davis.
Oh, how did I
All
miss that
right.
reference? Damn. But I couldn't spell, and then I just basically showed everyone that I can't write in cursive. But okay.
All right, come
Good
back.
thing this is audio only. We are coming back, and we're coming back down in Port St. Lucie, warmer weather. We're in Florida. We're playing ball, and I will start out here.
What's happening at Clover Park, man?
Clover Park, beautiful ballpark. But we're going to be talking the starting pitching depth and the rotation. I mean, it's obvious that this is number one in terms of camp buzz. It's the injuries to the starting rotation. I mean, Mania going down with his oblique injury, right? He's expected to miss the start of the season, which obviously hurts considering he is penciled in as our number one. And then you have a guy like Montas again injuring his lat, and he's likely out until May. And who knows? Lat injuries are so finicky, and he's older, and he has the track record of injury history. So keep close tabs on that. But basically, you don't worry about the starting depth. I mean, it's dwindling quickly, right? There's two out of our starting five won't be there for opening day. And I know for some time the Mets were all in on potentially looking for a deal. Maybe not all in, but there were rumors that we were looking for a deal elsewhere, right? And going externally looking for Cease or a King deal to make with the Padres. And we're trying to pull in a starter like that. But honestly, after seeing some of these young guys throw in the spring so far for this couple of weeks, I think we got to give them a go and give them a shot. But don't look at Canning or Blackburn. I'm talking the younger guys. Some of these prospects who have a higher upside. I just feel like we're taking innings away from some of these young, hungry starters with that high upside that we've heard about for some time. And this farm system is sneaky and underrated. And I'm going to give you a few of those guys. But Ed, I know you have a sore spot for Michael King, so I want to give you a moment to say what you got to say.
A sore spot for Michael King.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have an affinity for Michael King. No, I have a friend who's a big Padres fan who just likes to rub it in my face every day.
That stinks.
He often checks in and says, "So you still think you won the Juan Soto trade?" And I can't help but tell him we did make the World Series, dude. No, you guys did not. I don't know what else to tell you.
But what does he say after that?
After that, he's just like, well, it's often just like some sort of laundry list of other nonsense to try and make you feel bad about it.
I was going to say just you guys lost, but
exactly. Well, he does actually say that too, and he says how much he hates the Dodgers, and then gives me a ribbing for all of that as well. To which I also say you also lost to the Dodgers to end your season, so all three of us have something in common.
Fair. We're even.
We all hate the Dodgers. So no, Michael King, I hope for the best, and he's just a great pitcher. And there is something that I've noticed in spring training for the Yankees, at least, and I do want to get back to the big storylines with you too, but. For the Yanks, we do have some starting pitching situations arising now with Luis Gil's shoulder injury popping up here. Looks like a little tightness in his pitching shoulder, and there's at least some concern. He's going for an MRI tomorrow, so we'll learn more about that. But that's your rookie of the year last year and was a bit of a dog for us in the playoffs. He actually had some great showings out there as a rookie. And coming back to where we are now, Michael King.
Michael King. That's where we left off. And I'm sorry, I threw you under the bus there. I was about to.
You did. I'm just coming back to it. So I'm going to say, right, we're going to tie it all together. Heel, King of the heel. All right, let's go. So Michael King is obviously looking like an ace for the Padres. And one thing I saw on social media this weekend that gave me such great excitement was an overlay by Pitching Ninja, right? We all know Pitching Ninja for social media fame. And he did an overlay between Michael King and Will Warren. He's a pitching prospect for the Yankee staff now. And the overlay is almost identical in terms of their pitching release, their delivery. Michael King's got this sort of funny crouched delivery that he does, and he sort of coils and comes at you really quick. So for his
kind of short arms a bit.
Right. And so for his frame, he's a bigger guy, but it comes at you even faster than you'd expect, right? It almost kind of like slingshots at you. So seeing this from Warren, who's even taller than King is and lankier, who's got a devastating changeup and really good fastball stuff, has been dialed in this spring so far in two appearances, striking guys out left and right. The run on the curveball or on the changeup is immaculate or incredible. And after a brutal showing in the big leagues last year, in about 10 innings pitched, he had about a 10 ERA. So really not good, but the Yankees have still been really high on him. And he's a guy that I like looking at maybe breaking camp with the Yankees if we do see any more pitching issues, just because of his versatility. He's got AAA experience. So in terms of that,
And you know
knowing
what?
that he could be like Michael King and Matt Blake could work his magic.
I mean, I've seen Will Warren pitch, and I've watched some of his kind of. I looked at some of his graphs and also kind of watched how he looked on Pitch Ninja. And dude, he has some nasty stuff, and like I think he has potential to be a really good pitcher in the bigs. But again, the problem is with these prospects in New York, you don't know how they're going to pan out playing in such a demanding atmosphere. And
Absolutely.
to that point, I think that's a good segue because I was just gonna before I gave you that chance to chime in on Michael King, I was gonna give you some of the Mets pitching prospects that are really kind of turning heads at this spring,
I love it.
and a guy named Blade Tidwell, who
Mm.
some people as Mets fans should know of Blade Tidwell. Well, I can't talk. Cut this
Blade
part out.
Tidwell.
Cut this part out. But Mets fans know a guy like Blade Tidwell. He had a lot of high upside, right? But he struggled at the AAA level. But this spring, he's thrown two perfect innings with 5 Ks. I know it's a small sample size, but he is a solid guy to give an opportunity to fill 5 or 6 in the rotation with these injuries because it just allows a guy like Brandon Sproat, who is the Mets' top pitching prospect right now, to just keep getting work in the minors because this guy, has potential to be called up in May or June, maybe earlier if he's really dealing there. But there's no need to push him unless pending an injury or he's really just killing it in the minors. But he's a guy, being the top prospect, you really want to stretch them out and make sure they are ready to go without rushing them. And yeah, Blade Tidwell, man, I would give him a shot. I mean, he's been struggling in AAA, right? But he's only 23, strong 5 pitch mix, and I just wouldn't mind giving him a shot. I mean, it can't be worse than a 5+ Griffin Canning. And in terms of ERA, right? Another prospect is Max Kranick. I know, the Mets bullpen is pretty set stone, but there's a fight for the last spot or two. And this guy, he's 27. He's been bouncing around a bit in the majors, not too much major league experience, but he's posted 5 scoreless innings with 4 Ks and no walks here in spring. I mean, he could fill a long relief role with upside to potentially be a middle reliever, if he performs well. So I don't know. The bullpen's in a good spot. I just like the idea of giving prospects with high upside a chance. And even if there isn't that much upside, it's still an unknown, right? Where sometimes you already know what you got with a guy like a Canning or a Blackburn. And, maybe they've seen the better part of their career already, or they've never seen it at all, and it's never going to come. And so,
Right.
yeah, I mean, with that, Ed, and then I'll wrap up my first point here. But luckily, and this is where I'm bringing up our boy, a guy like Clay Holmes, looks like he, is meant to be a starter all along, right? This spring, he's posted 6 perfect innings with 5 strikeouts. He has a great, strong 5 pitch mix. I mean, most of them are plus stuff when you're looking against the average in the MLB. And his new kick change is nasty. I
Oh yeah.
mean, dude, he has upside to be 2 or 3 in a rotation, in my opinion. I'm praying he stays healthy, but he just looks like he's meant to be a starter. He is dialed in. And I'm not going to say one because that's fucking crazy, but like to me, I feel like he could be like a Michael King. So
Hey,
I'll leave it at that.
he is basically, I said it to you earlier, just a horse on the mound. If you put a physical horse out there and give him a baseball, that's what Clay Holmes looks like. And he actually has control and the ability to strike you
Yeah,
out.
I don't
So
know if a horse would be able to have as much control as Clay Holmes, but I would I would like to see it.
okay, maybe don't throw Mr. Ed out there, but I do think Clay Holmes is just an imposing figure on the mound, quite scary. A great guy, but yeah, just the ability to throw that hard at that size with that movement. Yeah, you guys got a weapon there, and it'll be interesting to see how he's deployed throughout the season. Still think he could be a great 3 to 5 inning guy, but if he's a great starter for you guys, the more power to you because I just can't believe there wasn't more of a market for him.
Yeah, and you know what, Ed? I can't agree more, and I'm actually really excited to see Clay Holmes in action. And I have such high. I'm worried though because I have such high expectations for him that if he falters or struggles at any point, it's gonna hurt. Because
Yeah.
I really just think he was meant to be a starter again all along, and he has that starting pitch mix, and he has that slow heartbeat, and he's already dealt with playing in New York in the toughest atmosphere, being a closer in the Bronx, and
Yep.
being in the shadow of guys like Mariano Rivera, right? Where you have the crazy expectations no matter how far away you get from that. So with all of that aside, I'm going to run quickly through the rest of my list. I'll pass you if you have any honorable mentions, and then we will hit the last segment here because we're going to start to talk about the ABS system. And I would love to hear your thoughts on that. But before we do so, we want to really focus on the camp buzz and get through it.
Oh yeah.
So without further ado, though, I did want to quickly talk about the battle for the Mets super utility role and the Nick Madrigal injury. He's out for the season, most likely, with a fractured left shoulder. I mean, he's a super utility guy with a good glove, and he's good at the plate, good contact. I mean, sounds familiar?
Oh my God, button. Oh my God, button. Oh my God, button.
I was waiting for that. Right on the money, Ed. I love that. And Stearns and team officials, they keep saying that they're not going to re-sign Iglesias, even with this injury, right? But rather kind of fill this internally. I'm disappointed. Because I feel like, and we've talked about this, but I feel like the 2024 season was left open-ended, and the oh my God chapter isn't over. I mean, most of the 2024 Mets core, they're still here, and it just would feel right to bring him back. And sure, Brett Beatty, he's raking in spring. We've seen this before, and he's learning second base to be more of a super utility guy, but he's not as seasoned and proven. Um, and he's done well in AAA. He's done well in spring training, but he is basically the AAA and spring training masher to this point in his career. I mean,
Right.
he's hitting at a 400 clip right now with 2 home runs and 16 at bats, but he needs to prove at the big league level. And there's been flashes. And I have his rookie card. I have a graded 10 Brett Beatty rookie card because I was so high on the guy. And it's gonna be a napkin unless this guy could prove it. So
Well, Brett Beatty is still high on you if it makes you feel any better.
it does, and he has a nice car now, so you can pick me up and drive around. Thanks to Juan Soto.
Okay, honestly, Juan Soto, dude, you got 780 million, and that's what you did. Come
Oh,
on.
there it is. I was waiting for that. It was
Come
Brett
on.
Beatty's dream car. He said it
Yeah, okay.
himself.
He didn't even know what his dream car was. Bro was still driving a Toyota from high school. Like he didn't know any better. Show
Dude,
him what he should want. All right. Come
and
on.
he's, it's funny. He's like, it was really weird that I forgot who it was. One of the Mets bench coaches or somebody was like, it was weird when they asked me for like my car insurance because no one asked me that, but I just gave it to him or something like that. But
just
I
to
still,
get it on the road.
yeah, I guess. But I still love Brett. I'm high on him. I still would have loved Iglesias because I still think there was unfinished business from last year. That's kind of where I'm at. And a guy, again, like Acuna, he's an option. He actually got hit in the elbow and it looked pretty nasty, but luckily he played. Oh my God, right now. My God.
I'm sorry.
No,
I got a little distracted.
Please, that's all right.
Continue.
We're playing. Well, you're trying to really make me get my feels right for missing Iglesias.
It's good radio or good potting.
We're good potting. But the thing about Acuna that you son of a bitch.
All right.
Throw the hands up.
We're back. I was dancing. Sorry. That's why
Throw the
I
hands
couldn't
up.
stop it.
Well, that's why we got to be on video. People will join in, but
yeah, no one will ever have evidence. That was all Alec. No one will know otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. No, they could tell it's coming from your side. Don't worry. But what I will say, Acuna came out of the gate strong. When he came up last year, a lot of upside, but he's also no guarantee at this moment. And you don't want
playoff numbers against that in that series against Milwaukee, at least.
Great, yeah, and he really played well in September, but you don't want to hurt his development. He's so young, and he still has a little more development to be had, I think. And being hit in the elbow, I know there's no major luck. Thank God, there's no major issues. They said, but it still will set you back for a little, even mentally, right? And we've seen that. So I don't know. I don't think he's an option to start at the big league level. And that just leaves. If it's not going to be Iglesias resigning, it's not going to be Madrigal, obviously. It's going to be Beatty or it's going to be 30-year-old Donovan Walton, who I'm sure, again, nobody knows. And he is the second time I've mentioned his name here, which is pretty crazy. I mean, he only has a couple games in the majors, primarily with the Mariners from 2019 to 2021. He is someone who won't really be developing anymore than he already has, considering where he's at in his career. He's 30 years old. He can play all.
We're all still developing, okay?
But that's why I'm saying that I'm 30, and
life's all about the journey.
We're washed.
Not the destination.
Fucking, that's like a bathroom painting.
Don't worry about it, Donovan. We got your back.
But I will say this in Donovan's defense: he can play all assets of the infield. Supposedly he's a great clubhouse guy, and he's another lefty option off the bench. It's actually funny. He was drafted by the Mets, fun fact, in 2012 in the 36th round. So we have come full circle with Donovan Walton.
He's so old that he got drafted when there were 36 rounds.
Yeah, exactly. Good old Donovan Walton. And I personally, want it to be Beatty just to see one last time, basically, if he could handle the big league reps and also maybe trade Beatty if he comes out hot. Who knows?
Trade
Um,
Beatty.
Trade Beatty. And I just always want to see someone in there with more of a higher upside where Walton's kind of just, he's another depth guy. He's like exact short, essentially.
Okay. Yeah. You need guys like that, though, man.
You do. So, Ed, I've talked a lot about the Mets. Yankee fans are getting pissed off. I do want to give one more honorable spring stud mention right
They're
now.
already asleep. Don't even bother.
Are you ready? Spring stud alert. Here we go.
All right.
And I'm going to piss the Yankee fans off even more. That is Juan Soto. 2 home runs, 8 at
Oh,
bats, both Oppo tacos. Also, the Soto nod and smile, much more intimidating than the Soto shuffle, in my opinion.
oh my God. I hate.
I fucking love it. I started doing it in the men's league, and I literally struck out swinging.
He's got a little. See, it's that wink and smile and that stupid little face that he made at the end of last season. The second he turned his hat around after the World Series, made sure that no emblem was facing forward. He had
Well,
that same little smug little look on his face. Ugh.
he's got to. Now you say that, but he's got to let the pitcher know he has his number, and that's exactly what he does before he goes Oppo. And that is a spring stud. And one more spring stud, crazy man, Jose Siri, kind of running away with that center field job. He is hitting
Crazy.
nukes, dude.
Oh yeah.
3 home runs, 7 RBIs, 10 at bats this spring. I mean, he is the man. I also loved his T-shirt that he was wearing the other day. I think he said something along the lines of "Not everyone's gonna like me. I'm not pizza," and that was fucking funny.
You can't be serious.
You can't be serious.
There's got to be a John McEnroe team up there somewhere, right? Like Queens, U.S. Open tennis. You can't be serious. You make a T-shirt kind of like that. Serious. All right. I'm giving them too many promotional ideas. It's gonna work.
I like the pizza one better, but I'll put the suggestion into Davidson.
Okay, it's for the older people. All right, you're too young to understand.
You're born in the 90 in
You're not
1990.
cultured enough for this highbrow humor.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Well, that's true. But Siri, no, that's shut up, phone. Turn off. Don't you dare. No, I'm kidding. Siri is not listening. But we do like it better. Pizza's better. Yeah, we don't like Siri.
I want the shirt. Then maybe that's gonna be the new thing if he's a sub. But he has run away with that center field job. I love Tyrone Taylor as a backup. Either way, Ed, I want to give you the floor for a 10-minute rundown of Yankee camp buzz. I know you mentioned Will Warren, but I want to hear what else is going on. Yeah, Yankee camp. I mean, I don't, but the Yankee fans tuning in do. So,
well, you're speaking of hot starts to spring. I actually wanted to go to something very quickly just to run over some former Yankees quickly who are tearing it up. So you mentioned Siri with 3 home runs already. Like you said, just big personality. That's a great ad. Former Rays player. We obviously set a hitting record in the minor league with the Daytona Dragons years ago.
Ooh,
so
yes,
Jose Siri has been one of those sort of odd, been around the game for much longer than you'd think, but such a volatile character and kind of team dynamic you've got going on. So I think again with the Mets, you can go if he's going well, you guys are going to be great. If he has a bit of a run in with like the fans or any kind of issue like that, I'll be curious to see how that affects the clubhouse. You know what I mean? I'm just curious.
and I mean he'll be. And to your point, if he could get along well with the team and he hits 20 plus home runs at 9 hole,
Totally.
steals 15 plus bags, that's a win. And he plays an A plus Gold Glove center field.
And I think the team will love him, but it's again, how long does that personality or that, I'm an irritant last if the team's not going well, right? You got Winker and you got Siri, both guys who are great for the clubhouse if you're going well. So I'm just saying that'll be an interesting dynamic. I still think it's great for the clubhouse. I like the team dynamic, and I think it's a lot of why Juan Soto wanted to be there in the first place. So that's another conversation for another day. I will go back to what the Yankees did to take care of some of those losses and just the battles that we're seeing develop. But obviously,
I want to hear position battles too. I feel like there's got to be some going on with the Yankees. I know for a fact you guys have strong feelings about that.
Oh yeah, huge feelings, and I am going all over the place. But we're gonna wrap back to who's hot, who's not. Miguel Andujar for your Athletics is hitting 462. And this is going back to Yankee camp. We have a third base battle, and Andujar, as we know, came up in 2018 with the recently departed Gleyber Torres. Sorry, he's not dead, just not in New York anymore. He's in Detroit, as we all know. But Miguel Andujar set the world on fire that year. Had an amazing rookie campaign. Hit like 297 that year with 27 home runs. Looked like the third baseman of the future, except for a little thing called his defense. The glove was not so great, but
Awful.
he's rebounded. Yeah, awful is one way to put it. But he's rebounded now with formerly Oakland. He's just with the Athletics now out there in San Francisco, or Jesus, Sacramento, San Francisco's AAA ballpark. Thank you. Um, and he's again lighting it up so far. So 462 average. He's got 2 home runs and a 1,423 OPS. So that's just insane. Love to see that. Hopefully it carries on, and it would just be great to see him do well and get his career back on track. Could be an interesting trade piece for them too. And if the Yankees still need a third baseman, you never know. So we move on to Kyle Higashioka, who's with the Rangers now in
Yep.
Texas. Had a good year out there in San Diego last year, part of that Michael King deal that we talked about. But he has 4 hits and 8 at-bats for a 500 average, and 3 of those 4 hits have gone for extra bases. 2 home runs and a double with a 1,875 OPS. So he is tearing the cover off the ball, and he's just always a great clubhouse guy. Great to have on the bench. And we are also in need of a backup catcher. So this brings me back to our camp battles. And as we see those 2 recently departed Yankees, we come back to what we're looking for now. And we have that third base opening. Glaber no longer at second. We've got Jazz over there now, who was filling the third base spot. And for so much of the offseason, we've been told, don't worry, guys, DJ LeMahieu's got this. He's going to come back round into form, even though he's getting older. He's going to turn back to that 327 hitter with 26 home runs that you saw in 2019, 2020, that era.
All right.
But now DJ's out with a calf injury. Go figure. Can't get his lower half right. It's been a toe. It's been a foot thing. It's always been his lower half. And we all know you can't swing without getting your lower half underneath you. We saw Judge go down with a toe injury a couple of years ago. It's just impossible. So as far as the offensive production, we're not looking for much right now. And we're not looking at much right now at third base. And it looks like there's at least a little concern what we're hearing from Boone about LeMahieu. So it's not looking good. That said, I think Oswald Peraza and Oswaldo Cabrera are 2 guys you're obviously looking at internally, but I think Peraza is the guy to keep an eye out on. He's a guy that has a lot of pop, has the ability to poke, 13 to 14 home runs in 90 games. So you extrapolate that at the big league level, he could be a 20 home run guy, maybe a 250 hitter, even if he's hitting a little lower. He's got good pop and elite defensive ability, can spell Volpe at short. Just hasn't really had a healthy season for a couple of years. So I think if Peraza has a big spring, he's going to be somebody that we can see doing some big things. And at each time he comes up to the big leagues, he's poked a home run out to that big part of left field at Yankee Stadium. So I have a lot of hope for him to come make some big moves this spring training, and he's already off to a decent start.
Ed,
So
let me ask you a question. Something came to mind for me is that I feel like the Yankees have a pretty deep outfield, right? I know you lost Soto, but you have some good young talent with, obviously signing Bellinger and now bringing, you have a guy like Spencer Jones and Dominguez. What did the Yankees ever consider trading one of these highly touted prospects for a younger, high upside third baseman?
So it's interesting you say that. It would be nice if they were. I don't think I've heard a ton about that in recent memory. Somebody I've always liked, or I've heard the Yankees liking a lot in the last 2 trade cycles, was Ke'Bryan Hayes.
Dude, I was about to say 1, 2, 3. I was about to say Ke'Bryan Hayes.
Right? 1, 2, 3. We should have. Damn, sorry. I'm too fast. Yeah, so Ke'Bryan Hayes is a kid that they like a lot. Elite defender, some pop in that bat, is in Pittsburgh, kind of mired in maybe in the not the most inspiring environment. But I haven't heard Spencer Jones as maybe being the exact guy. I have heard rumors that he would be a piece they would like to see, but I don't think we have ever had actual names exchanged. Spencer Jones was a guy they talked about multiple times moving on from, but they seem really hesitant to do so. They think he's a left-handed Aaron Judge. He's from the San Diego area. San Diego wanted him for Juan Soto initially. The White Sox wanted him for Dylan Cease. We all know how that worked out.
Yeah,
Padres wound up getting him for a piece that the Yankees gave to the Padres for Juan Soto, which is Drew Thorpe. So it all comes back. And point being, they have, I think, considered, but I don't know that they've actually moved on any further than just mentioning names, right? Dominguez, they've had so long to invest in that they really want to see him through, I think. But again, you move on from Verdugo, who has great defensive ability, and you bring up, or you now cast Dominguez into this left field position at Yankee Stadium, which is the hardest field to play there specifically.
Mm.
He's a natural center fielder. You go from elite defender to not elite defender. He's had a really hard time out there this spring, and playing him out of position in hopes that you're getting a better bat instead of the 12 home runs you got out of Verdugo and maybe not the average you hoped out of him. So you're
Right.
trading offense for defense, so on and so forth in that outfield. But no, I don't see anything actually coming down the pike in terms of an outfielder for a third baseman right now. But I wouldn't be surprised if it happened before spring ended.
Yeah, no, I would be curious to keep an eye on that and see what happens, as we move throughout spring and maybe, injuries arise or you see more people's, true colors as there's more at bats and more playing time given. So let's
Totally.
keep a pulse on that one. And I've
And
seen Spencer Jones swing and it's beautiful.
well, it's funny how just over the last 3 years, it's almost like a mirror image of Judges from the left. It's kind of awkward now because his ass sticks out so far at that height. It looks so uncomfortable. But hey, it's paying dividends. He's already got a home run this spring. And,
Mm.
it'll be interesting if Dominguez isn't going well for a bit. Maybe Jones is somebody they turn their attention to. And, you got Bellinger and Judge and Grisham, and you got some flexibility in terms of that outfield athleticism. So it's a good problem to have, but you do wonder, where they might want to go. And going back to Peraza, it's only been 4 games, but he's hitting 333 with a 400 on base in those games and RBI. So 3 hits, not a lot of extra base hit, power in there yet, but contact is good, and elite defense at third, at least for the short term, is not a bad way to, break camp.
Yeah, he could fill, kind of a Luis Arias kind of vibe, right? He doesn't have to be a power hitter, but he can play plus defense and have strong on base. I mean,
Well,
that's
listen,
still.
if he could be Luis Arias, I'd sign me up. I don't
I
know
mean,
if
yeah,
I'm
I'm
going
giving
with
I'm
that.
giving him the benefit of the doubt, but I mean, even a third of what Arias
Right.
does, right? Just a good get on base guy with the plus defense, filling in a third, and then you never know who surprises down at the farm or who is available in the trade market as you get
But
into the summer.
and that's a great guy to bring up. And even though he doesn't really have a true position and not an elite defender, he's still good, kind of flexible all over. And the Yankees could really use a guy that sets the table. So he's been a guy that a lot of people talked about the Yankees trading for, and apparently the Padres are looking to move on from him. So you never know. I think they're going to get creative here at the end of the season, or at the end of the spring training session here. Goldschmidt talked about his relationship with Nolan Arenado recently, and
Mm.
Arenado made a road trip as a 12-year veteran across the state of Florida to play a road game against the Yankees. Not something that's commonly done, so that's still on the table. You never know, and again, that deal looks like it could be more reasonable on the books for the Yankees because that was a front-loaded contract for St. Louis with Arenado, and if the Yankees were to pull him in, you'd probably get a pretty decent discount on the remaining 3 seasons. So
It,
there's
and it's
there's a lot of opportunity right now.
Yeah, and sorry, I was going to say it's also something that could potentially rejuvenate a guy like Arenado's career who has like such passion for the game, right? And such a high, he's just a major competitor.
Right.
But I think a change of scenery for a guy like that will help. It did the opposite for a guy like Anthony Rendon in his later years, as we all know. But
For sure.
Arenado, I think, holds himself to a higher standard than I would say Rendon does. So I don't think that's something you'd
Well,
have to worry
he
about.
certainly knows how to stay on the field, and Rendon
Yeah,
not loving baseball was always a bit of a weird red flag that
yeah,
nobody really
it's
talks
so
about.
so
Just
fucking
like
weird,
never
man.
watched it, man. He's like, yeah, I'm just fucking good at it. Like, ooh, I
Like you're
want to
just
do
going to
that.
work. You're just clocking in. I don't understand. I don't
I used to
understand.
kind of admire it because it's like, sometimes we're good at things we don't love, and that's fine. But like, also, god damn it,
Yeah,
why
it's
can't
like
I have a
Jokic.
little bit of that?
It's like Jokic in the NBA, but again, this is not an NBA podcast.
Oh,
But
but that guy just plays, man. That guy's so fucking good.
he's like, I don't care. I'm just good at this. But
Yeah,
Ed,
he's like,
is
I
there?
like horses better.
Yeah,
Um,
he just wants to ride his horse on the beach with a
give
trophy in hand.
give me Clay Holmes. I'll take Clay Holmes.
Yeah,
He's a good horse.
and he's tall.
Um, he's big horse. I can win with
Um,
him.
Ed, I will say though, is there any other camp buzz or major call outs that the people got to know?
I think 2 quick ones. Backup catcher, right? We mentioned it with
Hmm.
Higgy being in Texas now, San Diego last year. We had Trevino last year, who we dealt in that deal for Fernando Cruz and Alex Jackson, who I now mention as a candidate. Great defender. Came up with spent a lot of time, I should say, in Tampa Bay. And you know how they do their business out there, just really good fundamentals and a good pitching staff. So good guy who knows how to call a game, frame well. and he hit a home run just a couple days ago. So maybe the bat's coming around, but usually a light hit tool. And the other guy who I think is just really more exciting in terms of what he's been doing and shooting up the ranks is JC Escada. In 2024 at AAA, hit 302 with 8 home runs. So he's got some ability. I believe that was in 90 something odd games. And then just over winter in Puerto Rico, played for Yadi Molina's team, right? And was training with him to become a better defensive catcher, all these things. And in that winter league, it's only 35 games. And again, different level, but 363 with 3 home runs in those 35 games. So he's got pop. He's got great framing ability. He's just somebody who's coming up more and more as a guy who wants to be great at his position and defensively first with a hit tool that comes behind. So he's kind of the perfect homegrown talent who's, worked with the best defensively you can imagine in the last generation of catchers. So you like to see that coming in. And then there's Ben Rice, who you never know. He could play catcher. And he was our first baseman who spelled Rizzo last year and had some big home runs, but he's still got the catcher's gear in the closet and has been dusting him off and playing more there. So we'll see how that battle goes. But Escar is definitely exciting, and Jackson's just interesting because you brought him in, and you like to see Rice, a homegrown kid, do well.
I will say, the Adi Molina stub, you didn't get that past me, so I felt that. But I understand.
He framed that ball beautifully in 2006, didn't he?
Son of a bitch. Not even the frame. Not even the frame, the home run. I mean,
that's true.
I mean, just
Puerto Rican brother.
I mean, he was a Mets killer. I mean, Andy Chavez did rob
That's true.
Yachty, and that was just, it's so overlooked because of how the game went. I mean, let's not get into all that. What am I doing?
Expose great Andy Chavez.
I loved Andy, man.
He was so good. And I just wanted to take 2 seconds just to say that
Please.
the utility infield spot is also something kind of going on right now. And just a funny sort of twist of fate, interesting way of looking at things is Yorbi Vivas, guy we traded last year, who hasn't gotten a chance to play this year, but time might be running out on him already. We traded him for Trey Sweeney, our first round pick a couple years back, shortstop, traded to the Dodgers for Yorbi Vivas, who had similar numbers at AAA, both guys, right? And it was sort of 1-for-1 deal, it felt like at the time. And funny enough, Trey Sweeney winds up getting dealt to the Tigers for Jack Flaherty. Jack Flaherty winds up helping the Dodgers win the World Series, and then re-signs with the Tigers this offseason.
What a
Trey
plan.
Sweeney is now playing at the big league level already for the Tigers. So he will be lined up possibly right next to our boy Gleyber Torres, or my boy Gleyber Torres, in Detroit's infield, while we still wait for Yorbi Vivas possibly to make an impact on this Yankees team. So just interesting how baseball ties in and how many of these things impact the next thing. And Jack Flaherty was almost a Yankee until we backed out on his he had a back issue that we didn't like. So there you go. You never know what's going to happen, and you never know how it's going to come back to affect you.
And you know what? Baseball, yeah, to your point, it always comes full circle. And that's a beautiful thing about this sport. And also, that's why I love spring training. I wish it was a little shorter, yes, but like what we just ran through, right? There's so many guys on this list that people might not, maybe not the casual fan really knows about, right? Or know the names of the players, or, the expectation of certain guys who are trying to break camp, right? And I think that's the best part about spring is you get to learn about guys within the organization that you never even heard of or thought had a chance, and you get to hear their stories and learn about their background. And it's inspiring. I think it puts more.
It makes it more real. It's human, right?
It's more real.
Absolutely. And like we all know how hard it is to do anything, right? Like that we want to achieve in life. So
yeah, like I'm rooting for Donovan Walton, but I don't want him on the team at the same time.
It's like we don't want Rudy. That's a great movie.
Yeah,
but we don't want that situation in real life. Apparently, the real Rudy was an asshole, by the way. Different
time. That sucks, dude. Now I'm not going to watch the movie again. Thinking about
that. Sean Astin, all right? It's not his fault. He's just.
No, I mean, Sean Astin and Lord of the Rings, that's all that matters.
Sam.
Ed, I do want to own my shit without cutting this out, because I could just be like, hey, cut this out. Can't believe I said in 2006 that Yachty hit the home run that got robbed. Yachty hit the home run that fucked us in Game 7. It was Scott Rowland that got robbed.
Oh, wow.
I was 12, so I will make that excuse for myself. I'm also trying to erase it from my memory, but I had to own that one.
Wow, you're right. Yeah, I kind of just allowed that Mandela effect to take place just now, and I kind of just fell into it.
Well, I think you were just letting me try to forget, so I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Maybe I was just too focused on what I had to say. Who knows?
Yankee fans, They're not all that bad, folks. I guess.
No, we're just too self-absorbed to care what you had to say. That's really what it came down to.
Oh,
Um,
Ed, I mean, this being able to run through this as the players just gets me so excited for this upcoming season because there's so much promise and upside with
oh
what
yeah,
we've done in the offseason and the core that we've already built, and it's going to be
absolutely.
exciting to kind of keep tabs on these guys heading further into March as we still got not a long way to opening day, but a couple weeks away, still some time for people to make an impact. And we still have guys who are making their first starts of the spring. For on my end, I'm excited to see Senga and Peterson go. I'm sure you got guys on your end you're excited to see go.
And a lot's going to happen in a really short time. So, going to need some replay for sure to make sure that we're keeping up with everything going on in this sweltering spring training that you got going.
And you know what? We could both say a prayer and in unison in to the fact that we pray and hope for no more injuries in this spring. I mean, that would just be devastating. And we want each team to have a fair chance, right? At this rivalry, we want that Subway Series to be fair when it happens in October.
Well, we can't be blaming God if things go wrong, is all I'm trying to say. It
Who
ain't
can
his
we?
fault if your team sucks. You got to blame your GM just like I do.
I can't. I can't. I can never. I'll have to blame the scapegoat, Donovan Walton.
It's always Donovan's fault.
uh,
Donovan
but
Walton Goggins.
I mean, hey, I'm rooting for him. That's
Hey,
all. That's all I got. That's all I'm going to say.
even we are. I hope he's your starting third baseman.
But Ed, can you guess? Can you? That'd be crazy. But like Zach Short,
Exactly.
can you guess what I'm doing right now?
Guessing you're watching some kind of highlight about Juan Soto
I am not, but I will
stretching
be.
with a hot dog.
I will be when. I mean, yeah, but I will be when we hang up this pod. No, I'm tapping my head because the ABS system is in
Oh,
effect in spring. I know we went long, but this is our
very
final
good.
segment. I want to.
If you had a helmet on, I might be able to hear it, but not right now.
Yeah, I mean, how's that?
There you go. Yeah.
Just give myself a concussion, but I had to do it for the fan.
Absolutely. Well
Um,
worth it.
and we're gonna go to Instagram with this and let the fans chime in. But I want us to each give one positive thought in favor and then one negative thought against the ABS system, and just kind of leave it at that. How do you feel?
God, the ABS. Anything, to be honest with you, I'm a bit of a troglodyte when it comes to baseball. So I will admit, first and foremost, I do not believe in the intervention of technology in baseball whatsoever. I don't believe it has any point or purpose. So I'll just lay that out there right now. I believe it all evens out and works out as it should.
So there's no in
So
favor for you, I guess.
yeah, not really, but listen, I get where fans are and technology, what it is. We need to see things be done right because we have the ability to do it with the technology. I get the argument, I get it, but it does take away the fun and the strategy and the manipulation of the sport a little bit, right? So
I
I
agree.
love that part. I love 1997 Levon Hernandez working the
Mm,
corner so far out that the ball is in halfway into the other batter's box and it's still getting called a strike because he's worked the umpire so much with his catcher Charles Johnson, just slowly leaking out into the further outside.
I mean,
So
yeah, and like a
easy point.
Bartolo Colon, similar, right? A guy who's just painting and painting, or Johan Santana. These guys are just come to mind. Ex Mets, of course, but
And you get
guy
benefits of the doubt for doing it well, right?
exactly, and doing it often.
Exactly. So I just there's my first point, and then beyond that, uh, as I've seen it implemented, I don't hate it so far. I think it's actually relatively quick. That's great. I
Yeah,
don't know that I trust the technology to be completely accurate. I was reading something recently where it's apparently designed by the batter's size and the actual manipulation of the box does change based on the batter, but it's not knees to chest, right? It's actually a percentage of the batter's height. It's
interesting.
actually a percentage. And I got to find the formula or the calculation, but it's a strange number to sort of create that is not really uniform with how the rules have been taught to us over the years, right? So it's really changing the game if we fully implement it.
And that,
And
sorry, Ed, I was gonna
oh
say, and
yeah,
that could throw off a pitcher, right? I mean, that's not going to be like your interpretation of the strike zone has been one way your whole life, and now it's going to be changed by some robot.
exactly. And right, and now it's superseding the actual umpire, who now what's the umpire's authority, right? So it just feels a little like I don't know, half in, half pregnant, half. It just doesn't
Yeah,
feel fully worth doing. And especially, and this is my final point about it, I just don't believe the idea of you get two challenges and then if you're right, you retain the challenges. How often are you going to tap your helmet then? my fear is that you're just going to hold it up and continue to do it because I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't
And
like
you
that.
can, and because you can if you keep getting it right too.
And you retain it, right? So I just feel like maybe you're going to take away from what it's meant to be in terms of that big moment thing. I don't know that it'll be used just for that biggest moment, you know? So
Yeah.
that's early feelings on it. But I'd love to hear how you feel about it.
Well, this is no surprise, I'm sure, coming from my end. I'm in full agreement with you. I think full ABS initiative outside of just what is allowed right now, it would really eliminate the art of pitch framing. And then there's certain catchers that have worked their whole lives to master the art of pitch framing, right? They could put some of the game's best receivers out of work, honestly.
Right.
Not only umpires, some of the catchers that take pride in their pitch framing, take pride in their defense, who maybe aren't plus batters, right? And some of the players I even read too also miss some of the traditional back and forth with umpires, which could be eliminated by just a tap of the helmet. It's just not authentic. I mean, it also could ruin the end of a game that we discussed. I know we were talking about this offline a couple of weeks ago. Ed, is like it could be the bottom of the ninth and you're tapping your helmet and the team is waiting to celebrate whether it's a ball or a strike to end the game, or maybe the walk wins the game or the strikeout wins the game for the other team, and you're
Right.
all sitting there on the edge of your seat waiting to watch a digital video screen show you if the ball clipped the corner. And we have
Right.
no idea how they're even coming to this decision.
Yeah, it's like I wanted to use a really crass term, so I'm just going to avoid doing it. But it's
Yeah.
like you're just ready to go, and someone says, "Nope, done." And what? It's so anticlimactic. To your point,
And I guess I have to say something in favor because I was a part of the game, right? The
oh, you're right. I
efficiency.
don't think I did.
Actually, I no, you did. Efficiency, I guess, is what we're
Maybe.
both going with. Is like
Get it right.
also it's simple and it doesn't disrupt the flow of the game as much. It's fast enough, I guess. It's still in there and still noticeable, obviously, but at least it's fast. Where we know some challenges could go on way too long when they're pretty obvious.
Right.
So overall, feel in the future, maybe just maybe, I'd be okay with it if, to your point, they don't regenerate. Even if you get it right, you have one or two per game, and you have to pick and choose to use them, and most likely it'll be the end of the game, obviously.
Right.
But it still rubs me a little the wrong way because of what I previously mentioned about the suspense and what it could ruin at the end of a game. So
Totally. And I think that's actually a bigger problem. Like you see
yeah,
it in basketball all the time now, right? Clocked games, anything with a real true clock. That's what happens. So like, you know what? Might as well challenge it because you can. Hockey. Might as
exactly.
well. Maybe there was offsides, but we know it's not, but we just really want to give it a shot so we have one more chance.
Yeah, so I think we probably feel the same way, that overall, thank God this isn't a 2025 initiative during the regular season, and let's hope it crashes out and someone hacks the system, and then we don't see it in 2026.
But the fear is that the Manfred man stuck around better than anyone expected it to. That Ghost Runner, and God, I just can't imagine this is going anywhere.
Like, oh, don't get me started on the Ghost Runner. Ed, why can't we play 12 regular innings and then you could go that route? Like,
I would be
play 12
down.
regular innings. Just play.
Yeah, even
Split the
11.
difference.
I'm okay with that. But like, just give me two real chances. Yeah, no, 12. I like that. I like that.
But I agree. I mean, I think there's always a middle ground for all of this, and there's probably a way forward. And I think they're just trying to do it too fast. And I'm just grateful that we get 2025, like the baseball we know, obviously, with a couple of the newer rules over the past few years that we've come to get used to, at least.
Yeah, and listen, we got to evolve, and if you don't, you die. So I would
I think
love to.
that's I think that's a good way to kind of put a bow on the whole ABS topic for
And
now.
listen, we would all love abs, but I don't know that I need abs in my baseball. But I would love to hear. I'm sure as you would, how our listeners feel about it.
No, I would too. And Ed, you know what? I think it's a good time, better than any. You know, that's a wrap for the first episode of the Big Apple Battle. Ed, it's been a pleasure. I mean, we're going to be going at this thing, getting better, improving. We promise you guys this is, we're working out the kinks, but we hope we brought you some good content. So please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts, and hit us up on Instagram to join in on the conversation. Ed, as always, LGM. Hey.
Get out of
And
here. That's stupid.
We'll and
Ain't coming back.
We'll catch you next time.
No way, Jose.
Peace out.
Adios.